Hey everybody, Scout Crafty here again. It's Wednesday, midweek Wednesday. I hope you're having a great week so far. I know things are a little bit stressful, times we're going through, especially if you're a new parent. You got babies at home, you need formula, or you have a vehicle, or you have to fill up at the pond. There's a lot of things going on that stress you out, and that's why you come here. And I'm glad you did, because let's unwind for a moment. In fact, let's unwind right away. We're going to start off with a how to go upstate. And, before I go upstate to mow the lawn and things like that on my property, I stop at the secluded, hidden spot that is just absolutely beautiful. And come check it out. Relax, sit back for a minute before we get into the program, and just relax and see what it's like to go upstate. Okay, the lawn is mowed. I have to tell you something. It's a beautiful day up here. Look at that sky. Can you see that? Blue sky. That's oxygen. We don't have too much of that in the city. Let's check out the pond, see how that's doing. Okay. Always love the reflection of a pond. Isn't that nice? It's going to be, see that birch? A lot of the birches, they lean. I got one I have to take down. I'm going to have to cut it down. Birch is silver birch. See that one over here? This one here. Now, a birch will lean quite a bit over, before it snaps. But, after a while, it does put too much pressure on the trunk, and it'll snap. So we'll cut this. This is great firewood. In fact, all my former scouts out there know that this bark, birch bark, is the best fire starter you can get. And you can see over here, woodpeckers, we're going after the insects in here, and you can see how they work their way around. That's interesting, huh? But yeah, this one's got to come down. I'll bring up the chainsaw and do that. But it is a beautiful day up here, isn't it? 70 degrees, just perfect temperature. The grass wasn't too high. I was surprised, considering I thought it would be much higher, but it wasn't. And there, if you look way in the distance, that's New York City. Now, take a deep breath. Don't you feel better? Don't you feel more relaxed than you did a couple seconds ago? Okay, first off, let's start off the show. We got a few things to talk about, a couple challenges, things like that. Let's get right into it. Okay, next up, I want to talk about one of my favorite subjects, and that's lubricating oils. And I want to talk about household oils here, and what the difference is, and what made me start making my own oils and things like that, and what they're used for, and the differences between some of the ones that you might be familiar with. And also, I would like you to chime in the comments with your favorite lubrication, whatever it might be. Now, last week I redid that radial alarm saw, and you saw me lubricate the motor with this 3-in-1 lubricating oil for the motor. You see it says SAE 20, that's 20 weight. Weight means viscosity, how thick or thin an oil is. This is a 20 weight. A lot of these are either 10 or 20 household oils, because that is a very thin oil and it's good for a lot of lubrication purposes. Some have detergents added that make it as a cleaner lubricant, which is good for certain things but not for others. That's why the difference between this 3-in-1, these two products, this one has a detergent in it, this one doesn't. They're basically the same weight oil. This is another non-detergent oil. This is a very popular with motor rebuilders, things like that. So let's go through some of these, and I'll tell you the pros and cons of what oils to use and what to stay away from. Now, many items that we use around the shop and home require a little bit of lubrication every once in a while, because if not, they'll let you know. by either squeaking or rubbing or being difficult to operate. A hinge is a perfect example. When a hinge isn't lubricated, it'll squeak, it'll bind. Same thing here with the threads on a vise or something. If you don't have it lubricated, it could give you those issues. And also, obviously, the drill. How many times have we had drills or pliers when you open and close the pliers if they're not lubricated? So we have a big need for lubricants around the house in so many different things. So you say, what do you choose, you know? Well, first of all, it depends on obviously on the application you're using it for. The first thing you think about is viscosity. Now, here I have 3 different oils, okay? This is a 10 weight, and you can see it's so thin that it ran off to the side here. You could see how thin that is and liquidy, and it's good to get into small areas. This is a 20 weight oil in the middle. This is the one we use for the motors. It has a little bit more staying. You know, if I move it down, it'll stay a little bit more. You can see the 10 is already down. The 20 is moving quick. And of course, to the right, we have a 30 weight. This is a 30 weight non-detergent motor oil. And you could see the difference. Now, how thick that is, it's how thick is it's going to stay on the part. It's going to fill up the cavities. And how thin it is, can it penetrate to get in there? So which one do you use? You say, well, why don't I just use the 10 because it's easy to get in? Because as you can see, this might run off the part much easier. So trying to match the viscosity with what you're using is the real kind of fun of lubricants. Now, manufacturers usually specify what lubricant they want to use on a particular item, and they will spend a lot of money on engineering and trial and error on finding out which lubricant actually makes their product perform best. Now, when we're working at home, we don't have that. You know, a lot of times you can't look up a manual on a 100-year-old drill to see what they recommend. It just says use oil. You don't know what kind of oil it means. So let me show you what kind of oils I prefer. Now, here's a perfect example. We have 2 20 SAE 20 weight, which we know the thickness of these oils. They're both 20 weight, but one is in blue, one is black. What's the difference? This, like I was telling you, is non-detergent, and this is the detergent. So you say, well, what's the difference between those? So now you're wondering, why even add detergent to oil in the first place? I know in vehicles, the detergent is meant there to keep the particles suspended so that the filter can take it out. But why would you have it in a household oil? Well, a lot of times you're binding and you're squeaking and your bad performance of 2 moving parts happens because not just the lack of lubrication, because there's also dirt there. So they add the lubrication so that when you wipe this detergent oil on there, you'll see we picked up some dirt, right? You see that dirt from a clean piece of metal. Now we're going to use the same thing on the other side. This is without the detergent. This is regular here. And you can see it doesn't pick up as much dirt. That's just the oil. But you can see here the difference. One picks up much more dirt. So that's the reason they put detergents in household oil, because a lot of times you have a problem of just dirt, old oil that has to be dissolved, and other contaminants. Now, once the item is absolutely spotlessly clean, you would rather have this, because now in the long time, this detergents can also turn to like a varnish and give you the same problem you had again. Now, one other thing that detergents really aren't good for is for high speed, things that are running quickly. Now, you can get away with a detergent oil like this on a lot of things that are intermittent use and whatever, but when it comes to things like my buddy John, who deals in sewing machines and things like that, they're really particular on what kind of oil that you're going to use, because you can't have a sewing machine that runs, it'll gunk up and it can actually damage the machine. So they have special non-detergent oils made for sewing machines. And also, like I said, this Zoom spout made by LA Co. This is supposed to be a really good oil, especially for motors, things like that. They make a clear one, crystal clear, that's made from a mineral-based oil that's supposed to be good for things like sewing machines and other things. So there's a lot to look at, a lot to experiment with. I'd like to know, what do you think? What's your favorite lubricant? You go to, what have you been using for years? Let us know in the comments. Maybe you'll turn us on to something. Here's a real quick plug for this LA Co. or it's called Zoom Spout. If you look under Zoom Spout, you'll see it. And the reason is because they patented this special spout. And what you do is you lift this up here, and if you'll see that's a tube within a tube. You lift that all the way out. You see how far it comes out. Then you pull the cap off. And once you pull the cap off, there's a little a nib here that you can put the cap on so you don't lose it, which we all tend to do. And then you could see, you could feed the oil. You could see it flowing through the tube here, and you could put a little spot here, and you could see that's a really good, smooth, slippery oil made for all types of fan motors and bearings and bushings and things like that. You might find on electric motors. Everybody swears by it. And just put the cap back on before you put that tube back in so no oil will shoot out. Okay. And then just feed that tube back into here. And that's called the zoom spout. And it's easy to get into a lot of areas. A little bit more expensive. Everybody swears by it. It's a good thing to pick up. Okay, next up. Remember I told you my technique for buttering up sellers at, at Elephant's Trunk? Because you know what? I feel that people want to see their products go to the, whatever they're selling, they want to see it go to the kind of right person. And, you know, like you don't want, do you ever want to sell something and some guy's such a, you know, and you just say, I don't even want to sell it to this guy. So you won't even come down in price. But if you like the guy, you practically give it away. So I always try and talk to the person before. Now, remember I bought that Flexi Racer sled, the wheeled sled? Well, the reason I got a good price on it is because I started a conversation with him beforehand about this sander he had. Now, I had no idea what these sanders were about. Let me show you. And this is it. This is what started the whole conversation that got me to get that Flexi Racer, because I saw this sitting on a shelf. He had it up there. And I said, wow, look at that. It looks like, you know what this reminded me of? Reminded me of the rocket ship from Flash Gordon. I've been a big fan of Flash Gordon. Buster Crabbe, all-time favorite. I love that guy. And, you know, I said, wow. I said, that looks so Art Deco. And I said, that's when they know how to make, you know, power tools. So we started talking. The guy was real cool. He, right away, you know, he knew that I understood tools. And so we hit it off right away. And that's how it started. So he had a price on here of, here. It was $75 marked down to $50, right? So he had $50 on there. So I bought the sled from him after we were talking for a while, and I just said, and as I was leaving, I looked at this and I said, man, that sure is nice. He goes, look, $20, take it. So I said, I cannot walk out of here without taking that for $20. So let's take a look at what this is. Back in the 1930s and 40s, everything was getting streamlined, and that was the big challenge for designers, to make things to look attractive and streamlined. They called these series of sanders locomotive sanders. That's what they're called now by collectors, because some of them really look like locomotives, and this is one of them. This has a similar look to it. They're quite collectible. I mean, there are some models that sell for big dollars. You could see them and restored. They're absolutely beautiful, all different types, all different styles. But this one here is made by Skill. You can see the label here. It says Skill Sander. And you can see the serial number, the volts, and the amps, the Drew 8 amps. Now, they say that a lot of guys still actually use these old sanders because they were built so well and they were made to last. Now, this one I got so cheap because he said it doesn't power up. The thing is, these are so simple. They're pretty much idiot-proof. It's a brushed motor, you can see here. And you can see the commutator in there. And you can see, you know, the brushes are right here. Everything is meant. It's well designed as far as airflow goes. And you can see the rollers still spin. Even has the port for the oil. Now, what type of oil would you use for this? Oiling a sander is probably one of the most difficult items to oil, because remember that the sawdust, the very fine dust that these belt sanders kick up, are perfect to be attracted to any excess oil. So sometimes you could do more damage to an article by over oiling it than under oiling it. So that's a pretty interesting sander. Even though it is missing the one knob that goes in the front, it's just a beautiful piece. And the reason I brought it up to show you is because I wanted you to know that if you ever do come across one of these old bulky sanders at a yard sale, garage sale, and it's $5, don't pass it up, because some of them command big money on eBay, and it's an easy way to make a few dollars. Next up, my good buddy Joe, you know Charlie's owner, Joe, you know him as Trader Joe's. He hooked me up with a tool from Amazon that was on special, and I think it still is. I'll have the link in the description. let me show you and give you a little background. We'll do an unboxing. Now, I had to laugh because the, you know how Amazon is a funny place. You know, I ordered this caliper. You remember that digital caliper after seeing Tim's great review on it. And when I ordered this caliper, it came in a plastic bag. No padding, no packing, just a plastic bag. And I was like, look at this, you know. It was thrown on the porch. I said, that's got glass. It's kind of an instrument. Really, it should have been packed a little better. And then when I get this, you don't even know what it is yet, but it comes in a substantial box, and it comes wrapped in shrink wrap. You know, you say, okay, wow, that's well wrapped. But look what it is. Look at this. It's a crowbar. Now, I always thought that's kind of funny that, you know, a crowbar would be, you know, wrapped in a shrink wrap, bubble wrap, and they send an instrument in a plastic bag. Anyway, this is what Joe told me, that they had this Estwing Professional Wrecking Series bar, 18-inch. It's an 18-inch crowbar, more or less, and it's made in the USA. You see that? Made in the USA. And you know how I'm a fan of crowbars. But the one thing I have to tell you, I just like all types of crowbars, but I'll tell you why I prefer the old ones that I restore. 2 reasons. You see the thickness here? You know, and that's substantially thick, right? And the same thing here. The claw, very thick here. Now, anybody that's used a crowbar, like me, knows that a lot of times you want to get this under something, and the thinner it is, the better it is. Well, here are some vintage ones, just a couple. I have dozens, but here are some, and you could see here the long, tapered, thin. And now, if you've used a crowbar, I know some of you out there have used one before and said, yep, you're exactly right. That long, thin angle really helps to get in and under. Here's a little bit thicker angle, and of course, here's the one that... the Estwing. See here, that's quite a stout, short angle, you know, so you really got to get, obviously it's used for different things, but, and the same thing with the other side. Tail side of these crowbars. Now, let me ask you a question. Which design do you prefer? Do you like a long, thin taper, or do you like the short, thick taper? What are you going to get under with something like this? It has, you know, even a door jamb, you know, it's pretty thick, right? So that's why a lot of, and you know, this has a compound bend. You can see up a couple inches. This one here is very short. I'm sure that, you know, like I said, they make these for, but what do you prefer? And even if you haven't used one, can you see the difference? It's pretty subtle, but it does make a big difference. That crowbar cost $10, which is a bargain, shipped in the USA, $10 for USA-made crowbar. However, it does have its limitations. I'm just throwing it out there just in case. I'll have the link, like I said, in the description. If you don't have one, who doesn't have at least one crowbar? What kind of maniac? Anyway, thanks so much for tuning in. Hope you have a great day. See you again on Friday. Bye-bye now.